The M16 has been losing ground to the M4 for years. I mean, hell, even the Marine Corps has replaced their iconic M16s with the M4 carbine. But that doesn't mean that the full-size rifle is completely dead. With its increased sight radius, softer felt recoil, and superior terminal ballistics, the M16 and the full-sized AR still have something to offer shooters. At least PSA thinks so, which is why they still offer a full-sized PA-15 in rifle configuration. But are they right? Well, we take a closer look and find out. The PA-15 Classic is a semi-automatic, direct impingement operated rifle chambered in 5.56. As you may have guessed by simply looking at it, the PA-15 is an AR-15 patterned firearm. Like all mil-spec AR-15s, it feeds from Stanag magazines and includes a single 30-round aluminum USGI one in the box. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, so let's go to the muzzle, work our way back, and then we'll get to accuracy and reliability. At the front, the PA-15 ships with an A2 style flash hider atop its 20-inch A2 profile barrel. The muzzle is threaded to standard 1/2x28 pitch, and the barrel itself features a melanite finish, making it very resistant to rust and wear. Inside, the barrel is rifled to a 1-in-7 twist rate, which is ideal for 62 and 77 grain ammunition, but also does a respectable job at stabilizing 55 grain as well. Continuing back, the rifle features a fixed F-marked front sight base with a mil-spec front sight post. The post can be adjusted for elevation with either a standard 5.56 cartridge or a special sight adjustment tool. Word to the wise, shooters should normally abstain from adjusting the front sight since most rear sights feature both windage and elevation adjustments. And in most cases, these adjustments can be done without a tool or even a cartridge. But if a shooter has to adjust the front sight, I recommend using a tool instead of a cartridge because it's both easier and using a round tends to leave copper markings on the front sight tower. Now, speaking of the front sight base, it features a mil-spec bayonet lug, which in testing fit my M9 bayonet perfectly. The handguards behind it are standard mil-spec A2 style, meaning 12-inch ribbed polymer with a metal heat shield underneath. They're secured to the barrel with a standard spring-loaded delta ring and a handguard cap. But before I keep going backward, I want to talk about one of the most important parts of the gun, the barrel. It's the PA-15 Classic's best feature as far as I'm concerned. Not because shooters gain a huge increase in accuracy from the additional 4 inches of barrel, but because of the change in velocity and how that increase in velocity affects the terminal ballistics of 5.56 ammunition. Now, I've heard plenty of experts purport that the additional barrel length of a rifle versus a carbine length AR-15 was, well, superfluous, and that any advantages gained were negated by the extra weight and reduction in maneuverability. The thing is, they're wrong, but only with one very specific round. M193 55 grain full metal jacket ammunition. You know, mil-spec 5.56, the original round before the green tip 62 grain or the Gucci 77 grain was introduced. See, when fired from a 20-inch barrel, M193 ammunition leaves the barrel at a screaming 3,300 feet per second, or roughly 1,006 meters per second. Okay, so it makes the round really fast. So what? See, there's a magic number in the world of steel armor, 3,250. It's the number of feet per second a bullet must be traveling at to defeat steel plates. Now, this isn't because those plates or steel armor in general is flawed, but simply physics. It's the reason that 220 Swift puts neat little holes in my hardened steel targets even past 100 yards. The round is just extraordinarily fast. And that same added velocity that makes the round destroy hardened steel also makes for tremendous wound vectors and increased temporal cavities on whatever is unlucky enough to be hit by the round. And yes, I know both those terms are super cringy, but they are accurate. Now, does this mean that M193 ammunition elevates the 5.56 cartridge to the same level of terminal performance as bigger, more powerful rounds like 30-06 or 308? No, the 55 grain projectile is still vastly more affected by both wind and light cover, aka vegetation, and retains less of its kinetic energy at extended ranges. Now, what this does mean, however, is that shooters can increase the versatility of their AR without having to switch to an expensive specialty chambering. But back to the rest of the rifle's features. See, behind the barrel, the PA-15 Classic features a flat top upper receiver, which is T-marked to make remounting optics in the same spot easier. On top of this receiver, the PA-15 Classic features a detachable A2 style carry handle, which is adjustable for both windage and elevation. though should a shooter prefer it, they can just simply remove this carry handle and install whatever optic they like. Now below this, the lower receiver includes a mil-spec trigger, which is really nothing to write home about, but it is serviceable, and with, extended use and break-in, it becomes pretty decent. Below this trigger, the rifle features a standard A2 style pistol grip. Now, I'm personally not a big fan of these simply because the finger shelf never really feels correct, but there are dozens and possibly hundreds of alternatives on the market, so shooters can replace it with whatever they prefer. Now further back, the PA-15 Classic sports a fixed polymer stock with a 13.5-inch length of pull. The stock is incredibly solid and features an aggressively textured butt pad for increased control and weapon retention. Additionally, the rear features a small trap door for a cleaning kit, but can also accommodate a stock weight for those old school Camp Perry style shooting competitions. Now, just like the included pistol grip, I'm not a big fan of stock. Not because its design is flawed, but because I'm not a very tall guy, and the era of the A2 stock was more in line with people shooting from a bladed position rather than being squared off. Now what this means in practical terms is if it's too big for you, the gun's gonna feel kind of awkward with its recoil, and it will translate some of its vertical recoil into more of a horizontal one. In the video, about halfway through, I swapped out the A2 stock and the A2 pistol grip for A1 models from Brownells, and it made all the difference in the world with a reduction of 1 inch of length of pull. Now, if you don't like either of these options, shooters can utilize any mil-spec stock they like, but if they opt for a collapsible stock, they'll need a different buffer tube, spring, and buffer weight, at least in most instances. Now that said, let's get into how the PA-15 Classic performed during our tests. As far as reliability, the rifle encountered no malfunctions with any ammunition tested. That includes ammunition from Hornady, Wolf Gold, Winchester, and SIG. And this was across roughly 500 to 600 rounds. But what about accuracy? Well, I tested the rifle at 100 yards, shot from a bag rest on top of a Lehman bag jack, and the procedure consisted of 5 separate 5-shot groups measured and averaged for each loading. Now these shots were taken roughly 5 seconds apart to allow the barrel to sufficiently cool between. Now look at these numbers. As you can see, the results weren't really match grade or precision rifle level, but certainly good enough for engaging targets at 400 plus yards. Also, shooters should keep in mind that despite its heavier profile barrel, the PA-15 Classic doesn't feature free floated handguards, but instead standard mil-spec ones. Despite this, Hornady's match-grade ammunition still lived up to its name and delivered nearly MOA accuracy from the gun. Pretty damn good. With a street price of around $500, the PA-15 Classic is a smoking deal for shooters in search of an AR-15 with that classic M16 appearance. Ultimately, the ergonomic shortcomings of a full-sized AR aren't really a deal breaker for most shooters, especially if they're not going to be maneuvering within tight quarters or running the gun while wearing body armor. Thankfully, the AR-15 and its derivatives are the most modular firearms ever invented. And consequently, that means I can just toss on an A1 style stock or even a Sully stock and entry stock and get this thing to the correct length of pull for my height. And plus, once I've got the shorter length of pull, I can really appreciate the softer recoil, better terminal ballistics, and the increased velocity added by this extra bit of barrel length. And ultimately, that's where this rifle really excels. For shooters who want a little more effective range over an M4, but don't want a precision setup or a tactical setup that's heavy and features a railed handguard, which can make the gun unwieldy or uncomfortable for longer shooting sessions or field carry. It may not be for everyone, but for some shooters, this A2 or pseudo A2 configuration featuring a flat top receiver is going to offer them the perfect rifle that excels at basically everything, even if it's not the most compact or handy package. Thanks guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more burst reviews.